What up, people? Mike Steph here with a special impromptu edition of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast. Sprinkle us all. First on the docket, well, the only thing that's on the docket is the surprising layoffs that were announced earlier this week from ESPN. And the two people I'm going to concentrate on is Bart Scott of ESPN, and more importantly for me, ESPN New York Radio, and Ryan Clark. Now, Ryan Clark is probably the one that's getting the most publicity and the most exposure, is because he was such a prominent part of the ESPN lineup. He was a part of multiple shows daily. He was an integral part of First Take. He was definitely one of the mainstays of the revolving cast of Get Up in the Morning with Greeny. And also, he was an integral part of NFL Live, their main NFL show. And during the season, he was a part of NFL Countdown, Monday Night Countdown. Just as recently, I believe it is a couple years ago, 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, Ryan Clark was just negotiated a new contract. And in between negotiations, he did take a brief absence. He was absent from ESPN programming until they was able to come to terms. Now, what has been broadcast over many podcasts, over many articles, is ESPN supposedly, or maybe not supposedly, more accurately, getting rid of the quote unquote wokeness of the network. Cam Newton was one of those that was let go. I think that was, but he was primarily on First Take, and everybody knows First Take is ran by, executive produced by, and centers around Stephen A. Smith. And if you have a problem with Stephen A., or if you have wronged Stephen A. in any type of manner, Stephen A. will not have you anymore. So when Cam Newton brought upon his platform Jason Whitlock, someone who Stephen A. has beef with, and who has beef with Stephen A., and gave him a platform to spew whatever inaccuracies or accuracies that was said, then, you know, Cam Newton wasn't long for it. But at the same time, Cam Newton has his own podcast. He has his own platform, 4th and 1 with Cam Newton. Like, so Cam is good. I don't believe there's any skin off Cam. Ryan Clark also has many, many other interests, and he has a very popular podcast of his own called The Pivot with Fred Taylor and Shannon Tatum, if I'm not mistaken. No, or something Shannon. I'm saying Tatum. That's the actor. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. Football podcast, but more like a lifestyle podcast. And he is not ashamed. He is not embarrassed. He is not shy on giving his opinions on things outside of sports. One of the things the detractors have said that he makes everything race related, and that's probably why he was one of the ones to be laid off, or it's one of the shocking ones to be laid off. Possibly. Maybe that was the reason. I personally think the writing on the wall is when ESPN acquires, or Disney acquires, or they merge with the NFL Network, and you get a lot of the colleagues from the NFL Network. That means you have an overlap. That means you have an overlap in on-air personalities, you have an overlap in insiders, you have an overlap in anchors, and you have an overlap in former athletes. So when Ryan Clark on Get Up a couple months ago, or should I say during last season, beginning of last season, as a matter of fact, and he tells Peter Schrager that his opinion doesn't matter because he's never played, or that's the opinion from somebody who's never laced him up. Whether that's true or not, that doesn't ingratiate yourself to the new to the new atmosphere that's going on in ESPN. And if there's a cuts, they're going to be like, well, we got Peter Schrager and we have Ryan Clark. Peter Schrager makes X amount. Ryan Clark makes X amount times gazillion. They don't particularly care for each other. They, in multiple ways, can interlap. We have other options to put where Ryan Clark is at. We need somebody who's just a part of the machine and doesn't mind being just a cog, and or has a little bit more leverage with ESPN and find themselves integral to the part of the day-to-day operations, i.e. Pat McAfee. So Ryan Clark is expendable. And the way it happened, he was on NFL Live giving his take. They went to break because it leaked out that he was one of the ones that were going to be laid off the next day. And they pretty much let him know, yeah, you do not finish the program. There was a narrative that said that he just walked off the program. No, that wasn't the case. They said, yeah. He was like, well, so do I go? They was like, yeah. Because business-wise, I mean, do you really want someone who knows that they're not coming back to be on your airwaves, to put any dirt out in the air, to put their narrative out in the air, to, if they wanted to go torch the earth, they could? No, you don't. So same thing, same reason why if somebody is traded during a game, you take them off of the field. Take them off the court. Why? Because now that's no longer your asset. You have to protect somebody else's asset, or more like you have to protect your own best interest of making sure your asset doesn't get damaged and you can get the asset that you want. Same difference. Now, Bart Scott, and I'm going to speak personally when it comes to Bart Scott, dismissal, layoff, firing from ESPN. I personally thought that the layoff with him in particular only really stretched toward the TV aspect, not the radio aspect, because in my personal opinion, Bart Scott's value for ESPN, in particular ESPN radio, in particular ESPN New York radio, is on the radio. I mean, he's able to have the freedom. He's able to have that entertainment factor. He is actually a reason why a lot of people tune in. Yes. Can he be boisterous? Can he be controversial at times? Can he really thread that needle, tread that line, walk that line? Yes, he can. But he also is very unfiltered. Not unfiltered to the point that he's going to put his job at jeopardy, but unfiltered to the point of, listen, you know what you're getting when you put Bart Scott in front of a live microphone. On multiple occasions while his tenure at ESPN, he has made the program that he has been a part of Must Listen Radio. To team up with him and Alan Hahn, Barton Hahn. That was one of my go-tos. Then they actually had so much popularity, they went national for a minute from 12 to 3. And they garnered a big chunk of audience. And then when ESPN Radio decided to rejigger their lineup and make it more local central or local centric, they paired him up with his former co-host, Chris Carlin, for Bart Carlin. For those who don't know, that pair up, that team originated in WFAN in New York when it was CMB, Carlin, Maggie, and Bart, until they got displaced by the sports pope, Mike Francesa. So when I really paid attention and realized that Bart Scott was gone, that affected me from a radio standpoint, because I'm like, darn, the power hour. Was one of my favorite sticks. The fact that he made people a little bit uncomfortable, or even the team up Don, I don't know why I'm forgetting the brother's name. Young brother on ESPN radio. I know he's on SNY. I really just blanked on his name. But when they team up, when it's pretty much the Black Attack, they are a very entertaining team because they let you in, or when people are a part of the culture, they feel attuned to the culture. They feel like, you're just kicking it with the homeboys. You're kicking it with the brothers. You're kicking it in the barbershop when it comes to them. You have an older perspective and you have a young perspective. Ty Butler, that's his name, Ty Butler. So it's almost like uncle and nephew, and I'm not talking about fake Unc, Shannon Sharp, like you missed me with that. But where does this lead for ESPN? Less diversity for one. Less, maybe more opportunities for people that's up and coming. Because the bottom line, and I'll end it like this: what people, what gets me, and by all means, I do understand, and I know the frailty of employment. I'm blessed to have a job for almost 23 years. That unless I literally unalive someone, I still get 3 hearings before they're able to let me go. That's part of being a municipal worker. That's part of being a city worker. Yeah, and I probably said TMI, but so be it. I mean, listen, I'm not the blue collar hero to the widows and the masses for nothing. But at the same time, when it comes to entertainment, yes, we would love for things to last forever, myself included. But when people, or when companies, and this is not me caping for a company, but when companies tend to change, when programs tend to change, they have to morph with the times. They have to grow with the times. They have to make tough decisions. Nobody is entitled to a position or a job forever, unfortunately, no matter how much we would like it. We hear this. I have the same refrain when it comes to wrestling. When we have the yearly layoffs for WWE, and people have been there 17 years. You're like, oh my God, Sheamus! How could they let Sheamus go? Dude been there for 17 years. I'm sorry. He's making $3 million, and they say, you know what, we're only gonna give you $1.5 million. Oh, he has the luxury to leave. Now, the way they do it is where I have a problem with, like the New Day. Listen, New Day said, nah, we know our worth. If anything, if you knew this was coming up, you give them a platform to go out on the right note, not just disappear, not just pretty much grind their value into the ground. That's not what you do. But we're not talking about wrestling. So yeah, when I say this is a sprinkle of salt, this is more like a dash of sodium, because I'm in and out like I was when making my 4 children. And I'm gonna get out of here before I explode. Anyway, until later. Goodbye.